we have to have shared sacrifice. So I am proposing a shared sacrifice tax. Now, here's the thing. It's really tough to cut spending. Everybody says, oh, I want to cut spending. In fact, a reporter asked Susan Collins of Maine, Republican senator, hey, what would you like to cut out of this bill? Because you keep saying cut, cut, cut. It's too much spending. She said, I got it. Agriculture. Some of the agriculture subsidies. Now, it's easy for her to say because she doesn't live in a state where there's a lot of agriculture subsidies, right? But she's right. But everybody agrees to that. Obama agrees to that as well. So that's easy. Then they say, all right, name something else. She's like, well, I thought I did a pretty good job of naming one thing. You're not going to let me off the hook? Okay, look, because it's easy for politicians to talk generically, but then when push comes to shove, there isn't a lot of room to cut. What are you going to cut? Healthcare? Are you going to cut energy? Are you going to cut education? Me, personally, on the spending side, I would. I'd cut education a little bit because I think Obama's proposals are over the top on education. Hey, great, but bounds of reason, and we got to get this deficit a little bit under control. I wouldn't touch healthcare or energy. We need that reform really badly. And I'd cut defense a lot. Not because I don't want to fight wars, not because I disagree with the wars that we went into. It's because the biggest pork barrel spending in the world is in defense spending. That's where so much of our waste and corruption is, and we've got to have the political courage to go after that. Now, that's on the spending side. So how about the tax side? Of course, the Republicans never want to touch taxes. No, don't ever raise taxes. But look, the thing is, once we are out of this recession and this economic doldrums, we have got to go ahead and make up that money. Because right now, we're talking about a $1.8 trillion deficit for next year. That is gigantic. So what's my proposal? It's quattro cinco. Okay, what does that mean? Number one, it should be for 5 years and 5 years only, starting at 2010 and going to 2015. Why starting at 2010? Because I want to give plenty of time to be able to come out of this recession and get the economy a little bit healthier before we start imposing the taxes. Now, I think that's plenty of time. I hope it is. And if conditions change, of course, I would be amenable to change. Why 2015? I want to make it only 5 years so that everybody knows, look, this is shared sacrifice. But once we're beyond this, we're going to go back to reasonable tax rates and hopefully get to that 39.6% for the top income bracket, which we did very, very well economically at that same bracket when Bill Clinton was in charge in the 1990s. So, but in the meanwhile, we got to make up ground on this deficit so that we don't have an out-of-control debt, as the Republicans claim they care about, although they didn't care much about it when Bush was in charge. So that brings me to the second number 5. So for 5 years, number 2, an extra 5% for people making between $250,000 to $1 million. So instead of getting charged roughly about 40% in federal income tax, they'd get charged 45%. Now, I have friends in that bracket. That's a tough thing to bear because remember, you got state and local taxes, et cetera, as well. But for 5 years, can you handle 45% if you're in that income bracket? I think you can. Now, if you're in the second income bracket, I bring you to the third number 5, cinco, if you will, and that's an extra 5% between 1 million and 10 million. So that would bring them up to 50%. 50% is tough, but remember, these people are making between 1 million and 10 million. And I don't like that income bracket being 50%, getting taxed at 50%, but it's only for 5 years, and we're talking about shared sacrifice. Remember, all of us have already sacrificed through this recession. A lot of us have lost jobs. A lot of us have lost tremendous income, et cetera, 401ks, pensions, and the guys at the very top, you know, some of them have lost a lot and some haven't. And they're the ones that both can afford it a little bit, and that made some of them, not all of them, but that made so much money from the stock market, et cetera, when it was overinflated in the years before. So I would bring them to 50%. And finally, for people making above $10 million, I'd give another 5%, so their income bracket would be 55%. Now that's real tough because you're talking about with state and local, you might get all the way up to 70% of your income being taxed. That's a lot of taxes, and I'm uncomfortable with that. Now, that being said, again, it's only for 5 years. We do the shared sacrifice. Everybody chips in, and these guys are making over $10 million, so they're going to be all right. They're going to be all right. And by the end, you have a deficit that has been, brought under control. You have a revived economy, and we shared the sacrifice. Look, they got those top income brackets got tremendous benefits throughout the years as the economy did well, and as Bush lowered and lowered and lowered their taxes. Is it fair to ask that their taxes be a little higher so that we can make up ground and then go back to that 39.6 top bracket? I think it's very fair. So it's the Cenk Uygur shared sacrifice tax. I'm going to start pushing it, and we'll see what happens. Probably nothing, but I'm going to give it my best shot.